I want to bring Erik from Hawke Media up on stage. He's going to talk about the future of marketing. It's a pre-TEDx event, which are really special to me. Erik, come on up and wow us.
Thank you. So today we're going to talk about the future of marketing. But before we get there, I want to cover the past and present to understand how we're going to get there and then what we're going to do about it. Marketing really started in its modern form around 1450 with the invention of brochures and flyers. Then as it progressed, around 1730 is when we saw the rise of magazines. From there, in 1836 was the first newspaper ad. Then we saw radio, television, telephone, and finally in 1995, digital. Over the course of the new century, we've seen social media, we've seen mobile marketing, and we've seen the rise of integrated marketing, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, as well as now VR and AR. The difference between how marketing is today and how it's been in the past, you can see with agencies. Over the past 500 years, marketing has been about creating a very interesting creative and broadcasting it out to your mass audience by getting in front of them on whatever platform they may be on. Again, we can go through the list of flyers, billboards, etc. It was about creating a very compelling message and getting it out to the masses and getting them over and over and over again, the idea being eventually they're going to see you enough, they're going to come by. What we've seen is a shift in that recently from the idea of just broadcasting to the idea of nurturing them down a full funnel. We're now in a different form of marketing. Again, the term being integrated marketing, where you're looking at really 3 pillars instead of just one. That first pillar is awareness. It's what we think of as traditional advertising and marketing. It's things like television, things like Facebook. It's the way we get our message out there and let people know that we exist. We get their interest. But what we've seen is a shift. People don't just buy once you get their attention anymore because everyone's vying for their attention. So the second pillar that's critical is nurturing. The idea of nurturing is bringing that audience along to understand your value proposition so that eventually they decide to make that purchase decision. We have all the evidence, all the data, and purchase cycles are getting longer. There's information out there, people are able to do their research, and they now understand that you need to educate them, you need to follow up to actually get those sales. The way you do this, there's a few simple tools now. Email marketing over the past 20 years has risen to, now everyone in here is using it regularly, as well as things like retargeting, which, as a lot of you know what it is, it's basically when those banners follow you around the internet once you visited a website, and basically the idea being it's going to reinforce different value propositions to further explain to you why you should make that purchase. And this is really where we see sales come from. It's no longer coming from that awareness, but that nurturing. The last piece, the last pillar, is trust. And again, this is more of a modern thing, but the idea of actually building trust with your audience is more important now than ever. Again, information is everywhere. We're able to do our research, and you're kidding yourself if you don't think people are doing their research before they make a purchase with your product or service. So getting third-party validation or social proof becomes critical. You can do this through press, you can do this through digital influencers, through testimonials, but some way or another you need to do it. Now, one thing hasn't changed. In the past over 500 years, this is still a very manual task. Doing marketing takes a person to sit down and actually manage it and work on it and modify it, and it's still human driven. A lot of other industries have gone to machines, marketing has not. We've recently seen the rise of what is called machine learning or programmatic buying or artificial intelligence, or there's many different names for it. And the bad news is currently, as it stands, it doesn't work. We as a marketing agency have tested a ton of times our individual marketing experts versus machine learning platforms, and 100% of the time we've outperformed it. And there's a very defined reason for this. Ray Kurzweil, who is the #1 expert in AI, he now runs AI at Google, has laid out a timeline basically as how he predicts the progression towards artificial intelligence is. It'll be another about 2 years before we see computers even have the memory capacity of a human brain. So think about that. Just to store the amount of data that a human brain can store, we're about 2 years away. It'll be about 2023 before computers have the processing power that they can actually process the same as a human brain. So we're about 6+ years away from a computer to being able to think at the speed that a human brain does. So now going back to the idea of programmatic or machine learning, you're basically making the assumption that something with the brain of about a mouse can market better than a marketing expert when you're giving it to programmatic or machine learning. And the outcome is exactly what it sounds like and what you'd expect. So be very cognizant of that. Now, to continue on the progression of AI, 2023 is when, again, artificial intelligence has the same level of processing power as human brain, but it's not till 2029 that it starts to mimic human intelligence. It does take about 6 years before we can actually teach these computers, once they have the capability to do so, to think like a person. So we're already seeing some evidence of this in our society today and the way that this is progressing. It starts with blue-collar jobs. We're seeing replacement of auto manufacturers. We're seeing replacement of food preparation, order takers, remedial jobs that are easy to do. But as these computers progress and become more intelligent, so do the jobs they can do. The predicted next wave will be jobs that are based on problem solution and logic. Things like bookkeeping, accounting, even legal services will be that next wave where they have a very defined outcome that a computer can understand. Now, the final piece, and the piece that we all think is a little more far-fetched, is creative. We as people, it's hard to define creativity. We think of it as this, intangible that just comes from your gut, and you come up with a really good message or a really good pitch or whatever it is, and it's something intangible in someone's mind. But if you think about it a little more broadly, it becomes a little clearer. Imagine if a computer had access to an entire human psychology and everything that drives an individual, all the data in the world. And now imagine that computer now has access to your data. So let's just take current data that's out there. I can go on your social media accounts and find out how much money do you make, where are you going on vacation, what do you like to say, who are you talking to, what kind of people are you connected with, and the list goes on. And I can define you to such a T that then as a computer, I can then target you, and what's to say I can't deliver a message to tell you exactly why you need to buy this t-shirt. Now, for a computer, that becomes possible. For a human, that would be very cumbersome. Like, a person could not go successfully draw up a marketing campaign for every individual person in this room and do it in a way that's efficient. But with artificial intelligence, it can actually start to ascertain exactly what drives you, everything that's affecting your decision-making right now, and why you would want to get this product, this service, etc. And it's able to do that in a very rapid way. Again, 2029 is when a computer, actually, and an artificial intelligence starts to mimic human intelligence. After that, it just accelerates. It starts to get smarter and smarter and smarter. And so as that progresses, it speeds way past what we could ever do ourselves. So you might ask, what do you do about this? How do you stay on top of this? There's a few things. One, keep in mind what I just said won't even start to happen for over 12 years. So where that sometimes can feel far away. Also, do not get complacent, and do not, be naive. It's something that's very real. If you're working in a job, start to identify the things that can continuously be automated and start to be outsourced, and figure out which new skill sets you're going to need to combat that and to be relevant. If you're a business owner, you need to understand what jobs could you replace with this efficiency, and with that efficiency, what other new jobs could you create, whether the new tasks will arise. A smart guy by the name of Marcus Shingles, who's the CEO of XPRIZE, as well as the former head of innovation at Deloitte, told me, don't let this be the Uber to your taxi company. Get ahead of it. And so tonight, I want to announce Hawke IQ. Basically, we are creating the first artificial intelligent marketing platform. We're starting with phase 1, which what we're doing is pulling down thousands of different companies' marketing data, putting it in the aggregate and tagging it so that we can take a specific company and compare it against, basically creating a comparable analytics tool. Let's say you're a fashion company. We can pull in your data, compare it against hundreds of other fashion companies, and ascertain whether you need to focus on simple things like, hey, your click-through rate on your homepage is way too low, to even more complicated things like your ratio from your sessions to your revenue is in the bottom 10% of your cohort, and you need to find a way to bump this up. This is phase 1. As we move into phase 2, we're going to use our expert marketing team as well as a team of data scientists to start to teach a computer how to ascertain these data points. So once we've built the platform to collect the data, which is almost complete, we will be then teaching the computer how to read the data in a way that it can automatically audit a company and tell you exactly what low-hanging fruit there is to fix a marketing campaign. Something that a person takes days, weeks to do, we'll be able to do instantly. In phase 3, the idea is we're going to create a modern analytics tool where in real time we're going to be monitoring all these KPIs so that on the go we can be sending notifications, letting you know your conversion rates dropped below a threshold, all sorts of different KPIs, and we're not going to make you decide on what's important and what's not. We're going to take that data from the broad spectrum of data that we have in multiple companies. The idea is we're limiting the forest from the trees problem. We're allowing you to understand the ecosystem and not just your own company. Phase 4, which is the real reason we're doing this, is to, once that 12-year progression happens and computers have the ability to mimic human intelligence, we want to have the platform that will teach it marketing. And that's Hawke IQ. Thank you guys for coming out.